The light in Dad's old study filtered through half-closed blinds. Dust floated in the air. I knelt on the carpet, sorting through boxes we hadn't touched since the funeral. One thick manila envelope had slipped behind a stack of old medical bills. The postmark was from 6 months ago. It was addressed to Mom. I turned it over in my hands. No stamp of having been opened. Inside were official-looking documents from the property appraiser's office. Notes about title searches. A sticky note in Mom's handwriting with my brother's name and a question mark. That's when I realized something was very wrong. My name doesn't matter here. What matters is what happened. I'm the middle child. The one who stayed. When Dad got sick, I was the one driving him to chemo, sitting with him through the nights when the pain was bad. Mom would visit, of course, but she had her book club, her trips with friends. My brother was busy building his career across town. After Dad passed, I kept the routine going. I work as a senior accountant. Most days I wake up at 6, make coffee in my small apartment, answer emails, review client files. 3 or 4 times a week, I'd drive over to the family house to check on Mom. I'd fix things that needed fixing, the leaky faucet in the kitchen, the loose railing on the back steps. The house was paid off, but it still needed care. Dad always said it was the one thing he wanted to keep in the family. At first, everything seemed normal. Mom would thank me for coming, make small talk about the garden. But little things started shifting. She'd mention my brother more. How his fiancée was so lovely, how they needed a stable place to start their life together. The market is terrible for young couples, she'd say, looking around the living room like she was measuring it for them. One evening, I arrived earlier than usual. My brother's car was in the driveway. They were in the kitchen. I heard her say, "Don't worry about your sister. She'll understand. This house is too big for one person anyway." They laughed quietly. I stood in the hallway for a minute, then made a noise like I was just coming in. They changed the subject fast. Mom smiled that bright smile. "Oh, there you are. Perfect timing." Another time, I found brochures for home renovations on the coffee table. High-end kitchen updates. My brother had circled things. When I asked, Mom waved it off. "Just dreaming. You know how it is." I mentioned it once to our aunt on the phone. She sighed. "Honey, your mom has always been closer to your brother. It's not personal. She just wants to see him settled. Don't make it into something it's not." I didn't argue. I could have pushed back right then. Asked questions. Demanded to see papers. But something in my gut said wait. The documents in the study, the whispers, the way Mom's eyes avoided mine when the house came up, it all added up slow. So I stopped reacting. And I started watching. I spent the next few weeks watching more carefully. I kept showing up exactly the same time, same small talk, same offers to help around the house. Mom never suspected a thing. My brother visited twice, always when he knew I'd be at work. I started driving by at odd hours, parking a block away, just to see whose cars were in the driveway. One Tuesday morning, Mom had a hair appointment across town. She left the spare key under the usual flower pot. I let myself in and went straight to the study. This time, I didn't stop at the obvious drawers. I pulled out the bottom cabinet, shifted a stack of old gardening magazines, and found a thick accordion folder shoved behind them. The tab read, "Estate Private." I opened it on the desk. First page, a draft gift deed. The house address typed clearly. Grantee, my brother and his fiancée. Consideration, love and affection. Mom had already signed as sole surviving owner and executor. The notary line was blank, but the date field said 2 weeks after the wedding. Next to it, a sticky note in her handwriting, file after announcement. Under that, printed emails, stapled together. Mom to brother, 6 weeks earlier, the house will be your wedding gift. We'll stand up during the reception and tell everyone. She doesn't need advance notice. She has her little apartment and her job. This place needs a young family. Your father would want you to have it. Brother's reply, same day. Sounds perfect. Realtor says we can refinance right after and pull some equity for the honeymoon. Make sure the paperwork is airtight. I don't want any last-minute drama. There was more. A copy of what they thought was Dad's will, the one that left everything to Mom outright. But I remembered the hospital meeting. 2 months before Dad died, he had me sit down with his attorney. We created a revocable living trust. He transferred the house into it. Mom got a life estate. She could live there as long as she wanted, but I was named successor trustee with full control after her. Dad had looked at me that day and said, quietly, you stayed. You earned this. Don't let them talk you out of it. I took photos of every page with my phone, then scanned the whole folder at the office supply store down the street. Same afternoon, I drove to the attorney's office. He pulled the original trust file, confirmed the signatures, the recording with the county, everything. He even had Dad's handwritten note attached. My daughter is to have final say on the family home. She understands what this place means. That same week, I found the voice memo. Mom had left Dad's old phone charging on the kitchen counter. It still had the voice recorder app open from a call she'd forgotten to end. I pressed play. Mom's voice, relaxed, laughing a little, she'll be fine. She always is. We'll announce it right after the cake. Everyone will clap, and by the time she processes it, the papers will be filed. It's kinda this way. My brother, in the background, yeah, she's too practical to make a scene in public anyway. I copied the file to 3 different encrypted drives. I uploaded one to a secure cloud account only I could access. I mailed a sealed hard copy to my P.O. box and another to the attorney for safekeeping. I didn't delete anything from their side. I just made sure I had it all. The betrayal sat there in black and white, in their own words, in Dad's handwriting. They were going to stand up in front of 100 people at the wedding and present the house to my brother like it was a fairy tale. Like Dad's wishes never existed. I closed the folder, put everything back exactly as I found it, and locked the cabinet. I didn't call them. I didn't drive over. I didn't send a single message. Confronting them would have ruined everything. The weeks before the wedding were the hardest part. Not because I was angry, but because I had to keep playing the same role. Helpful daughter. Supportive sister. I showed up to the planning meetings. I helped pick flowers for the tables. I even drove Mom to her final dress fitting. Every time my brother's fiancée mentioned how excited she was to start their life in such a special home, I just nodded and smiled. Behind the scenes, I made sure every piece was locked down. I met with Dad's attorney 4 more times. We reviewed the trust document line by line. He prepared a complete file, the original trust agreement, the recorded deed transferring the house into the trust, Dad's signed instructions, and a notarized affidavit from the attorney, who witnessed everything. He also obtained a fresh title report from the county showing the current legal status. I made 3 physical copies, and 2 encrypted digital backups stored in different locations. One set went into a safety deposit box. Another was mailed to a trusted friend out of state with instructions, only to open it if something happened to me. The attorney kept the originals in his vault along with a signed directive from me as successor trustee. Everything was documented. Everything was protected. Meanwhile, Mom and my brother felt completely safe. They spoke freely in front of me now, like I was already on board. At the rehearsal dinner, my brother pulled me aside and said, "After the wedding, things are going to change for the better. You'll see." Mom kept saying things like, "This house has always been meant for a young family," while looking right at me. They thought I was still in the dark. They thought I would be surprised, maybe upset, but that I'd accept it quietly like I always had. My brother even joked to his fiancée that I was too responsible to cause drama at a wedding. I didn't correct them. The morning of the wedding, the house was full of activity. Caterers, florists, family members running around. Mom was glowing. My brother looked proud, already acting like the new owner. He walked through the living room pointing out where he wanted to knock down a wall. I stood in the backyard as guests started arriving, holding a plain leather folder under my arm. Inside were the trust documents, the title report, and a single-page letter from the attorney explaining my legal authority as successor trustee. The ceremony was beautiful. Vows were exchanged under the old oak tree Dad had planted. Everyone clapped. Pictures were taken. Then came the reception. After the cake was cut, Mom picked up the microphone. She tapped it gently. The room quieted. My brother and his new wife stood beside her, smiling wide. "We have a very special announcement," Mom began, her voice warm and emotional. "This house, your father and I always wanted it to stay in the family." She looked at my brother with tears in her eyes. The guests leaned forward, expecting something heartwarming. I stood up slowly from my table near the front. The folder was in my hand. They thought it was just another day. It wasn't. I stood up slowly from my table near the front. The folder was in my hand. The room went still. Mom paused mid-sentence, the microphone still close to her lips. My brother's smile froze. His new wife looked between us, confused. I walked forward calmly. When I reached them, I opened the folder and held up the trust deed so the front tables could see the official stamps and signatures. "Before you finish that announcement," I said, my voice even, "there's something everyone needs to understand." I turned to the guests. 6 months before Dad died, he placed this house into a revocable living trust. Mom has the right to live here for as long as she wants. But she cannot gift it, or transfer ownership. I was named successor trustee, with full control over any decisions about the property. These are the recorded documents. I held up the main page clearly and said, "I control it now." I handed the full packet, including Dad's handwritten note and the attorney's letter, to my brother. His hands were shaking as he took it. Mom's face drained of color. We thought. "You signed a draft deed," I said quietly, looking at her. "You planned to announce it as a gift without telling me. I have the emails. The voice recording. All of it. I didn't want to do this today, but you left me no choice." The silence in the room was complete. My brother opened his mouth, then closed it again. His wife took a small step back, eyes wide. A few relatives shifted uncomfortably. One of my aunts whispered, they were really going to give the house away behind her back. There was no shouting. No dramatic fight. Just the slow, heavy realization spreading across the room. "I'm not taking the house from Mom," I continued. "She can stay. Nothing has to change for her. But there will be no transfer. No refinance. No equity pulled out. Dad's wishes are going to be respected." My brother couldn't look at me. Mom stared at the floor, her perfect wedding smile gone. The social weight of what they had tried to do hung in the air. The reception ended quietly. People left earlier than expected. My brother and his new wife slipped out without saying goodbye. I stayed and helped clean up, answering a few soft questions from family members who now understood why I had been so careful all these months. When the last guest was gone, I turned off the lights in the living room Dad had loved so much. Later, back in my apartment, I sat by the window with a cup of tea. The folder rested on the table beside me. I didn't feel angry anymore. Just steady. The protection was in place. The manipulation had ended. That night, everything was quiet.